That photographer's pictures are really good. I wonder what kind of lens he's using. If only I could buy that lens, I'm sure my pictures will be as good as his. I still feel like his pictures are better than mine. What is he doing differently? It must be his presets. I should probably buy his presets. How come my pictures don't look like his, even though I'm using the same presets? Maybe it's his camera. I definitely think I should update my camera. I mean, it is last year's model. This camera is almost the same as my old camera. Maybe it's the lighting. I should try buying the same lighting he's using. Does this sound like you? Well, I'm here to help. What's up, everybody? My name is Jay LeBlanc, wedding photographer and photography educator. I've worked in the classroom with aspiring photographers for almost 10 years now, and I want to share with you some of the things that I hear all the time from my students, things that really don't matter and they're spending way too much time focusing on. Meanwhile, it's not actually making them a better photographer. I bet you can guess from the intro what my first thing is. Stop focusing on the gear. Any piece of photography gear made in the last 10 years is good enough to take a good enough picture for social media, at least. We constantly get caught up on the newest, latest, and greatest things, and that's part of the marketing from all these new camera manufacturers. They're sponsoring the YouTube channels that you're watching videos on, and they're trying to get it in front of you to entice you to buy it, trying to convince you that you need this piece of gear to be a better photographer, when in reality, you just need to learn the gear that you have. Once you get to a point in your career where you believe that the gear you have is limiting you from doing something, or if you have enough of an income to justify buying newer pieces of equipment, then you should go down that route. Until then, you should really just focus on learning the gear that you already have. You don't need to go out and spend money to become a better photographer. What you need to do is go out and use the gear you have. Tip number 2. This is a really big one. I don't know what the misconception is, but a lot of photography students think that the only ISO you can use is ISO 100. As a wedding photographer, I hardly ever shoot at ISO 100. I'm constantly in low light situations, in hotel rooms, churches, wedding venues, where the lighting conditions aren't good. I'm going to use the ISO that I need to get the job done. A lot of photography students think ISO 100 is the only ISO that you can use to get a good quality image. After shooting over 500 weddings, I've never once had a couple come back to me and say, "What were your settings on this picture? I think your ISO is too high." What really matters, especially when it comes to that documentary style photography, is capturing moments, capturing what's important. Now, I will say, if maybe your career path is taking you to more of a commercial side or a studio side, then you might worry about ISO a little bit more. But when you're out working in the world, working with natural light and artificial lighting in a very fast-paced moving environment, ISO isn't as important as making sure that you capture those moments. So don't focus on only shooting on ISO 100. Focus on shooting at the ISO that you need to get the job done, especially if somebody's paying you to do that job. Tip number 3. I don't know what the obsession is with wanting to know other photographers' settings. Are you standing in that exact same spot with that exact same lighting in that exact same moment? No? Well, then who cares what their settings were? Because the conditions will change. The settings aren't as important as some newer photographers think they are. Yeah, you want to use the right settings to get the effect and style you're going for, but you don't need to know the settings of every image that you look at from other photographers, because it's irrelevant unless you're in that exact moment with the exact same conditions as them. When you're first starting off and learning, it might be beneficial, especially if you see a photographer doing a very unique style picture, such as a long exposure or light painting or focus stacking. But other than some very specific situations, knowing another photographer's settings is not going to make you a better photographer. Tip number 4. You're spending way too much time looking at the back of your camera. I can't tell you how many students I have worked with where they'll pick their camera up to their face, they'll take one picture, and then they'll stand there looking at their camera like this. And meanwhile, you have a model or paying client standing in front of you that's just awkwardly looking at you and doubting your abilities. Spend less time looking at your camera. It's okay to check your focus or maybe your exposure really quick, but don't just sit there staring at the back of your camera for 15, 20, 30 seconds after every single picture you take. Learn how to work with somebody, take a bunch of pictures, and then maybe do a quick review. You're just wasting your time constantly chimping, looking at the back of your camera. And if you don't know why they call it chimping, it's because when you look at the back of your camera and everyone goes, "Ooh, ooh, ah, ah, that looks good." If you guys like videos like this, throw me a like, follow. I really appreciate it. It goes a long way. Tip number 5. I think I'm on 5. I don't know. Whatever number this is. You're spending more time worried about likes than you are learning your gear. I get it. Social media is a huge part of what we do as photographers, videographers, and creators these days. But at the end of the day, your likes aren't necessarily paying your bills. But learning your gear and your software to produce a high quality product will help increase those dollar signs in your bank account. It's always nice when we post something on social media and it gets a whole bunch of likes and everybody loves it. But then at the end of the day, when you're going grocery shopping, I don't think they're going to accept likes for the food that you're trying to buy. So make sure you're learning your gear so you can provide a high quality product and make money with what you're doing, if that's the end goal. If your goal is to get likes, by all means, shoot for the likes. But if your goal is to make money and a career out of this, then shoot for the client. Which leads me into my next tip. Tip number 6. You're focusing too much on the picture and not enough on the experience. Photography is so much more than just pointing your camera at something, hitting the shutter button, uploading it, and collecting a paycheck. There's an experience between you and whoever's hiring you. If you really want to make money in this industry, make sure you're spending time focusing on your experience that you're providing and not just the photographs. Don't get me wrong, the photographs have to be good. You can't go out and deliver terrible pictures. But I do know photographers that are delivering mediocre pictures, but they're giving a phenomenal user experience, which keeps clients knocking on their door. This is Buddy. He wanted to come and say hello to YouTube. This is my dog. I don't think he looks very thrilled. Hello, I'm Buddy, and I'm going to give you tip number 7. Alright, sorry about that. My dog was just coming to pay me a visit. He reminds me about every half an hour while making these videos that I have to give him some attention. And for tip number 7, and my last tip, you're spending way too much time on YouTube or watching videos just like this one, and you're not out practicing. Go practice your craft. The only way you're going to be a better photographer is by practicing photography. I know it sounds very cliche and you probably hear it all the time in a million different fields. It applies to every profession. But if you want to be a master of your craft, you're going to have to practice. So when was the last time that you practiced a new technique? When was the last time that you tried something new? Maybe try a different genre of photography. If you love taking pictures of flowers and animals, maybe try shooting some architecture. Or maybe you love photographing people. Try photographing some still life. Try something different. And it's amazing how you'll see an overlap and it'll make you a better photographer in the areas that you want to focus on by trying other things. So get out there and practice. You're spending too much time on YouTube watching videos like this. Seriously, what are you doing here? Get out there and practice.